Well, I think we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome, everybody. Really glad you're here. Let me see if I can advance my slide deck. There we go. So, hello. Welcome to our July Caring for Ourselves as We Care for Others webinar. I want to thank Ellie, who's on the call, for her support from the Mountain Midwest Hub, who's making this series possible. This is, I think, episode 3 of 6. Frankie wants to come say hi for pet therapy. And today we're going to focus on really talking a little bit about burnout with a little bit of practice. So we've got about 30 minutes together to do this. We are recording, as you can see, and so we will be making this available on link in case you want to, watch it over and over and over again or share it with others. So really glad you can be here. For those of you who do not know me, I am Sarah Johnson, and I am the Joy Labs. The Joy Labs is the business that I started in November after being a Y person for a very long time. So I luckily I'm still weaseling into YMCA events and all sorts of things. So you can't get rid of me. But the Joy Labs is my business combining all of my different skills, training, and experience under one roof. So my mental health work, my prevention work, my health promotion work, and my work as an artist all kind of live under the Joy Labs. So it's my pleasure to help us explore a little bit today and experiment with things that might help build your joy, or hopefully help maybe renew your joy or nurture your sense of joy. So my intention in our time together today is just to really, more than anything, give you a pause, give you a respite, give you a rest. Hopefully that also means we can do some learning together about self-care. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a moment. My non-intention, I always want to warn you, I am a licensed therapist, mental health therapist, but I did not just trick you into group therapy. So this may feel therapeutic is my hope. That's always my hope. I do believe that community is medicine, and we are taking an opportunity to be in community here. So I'm hoping you find it therapeutic, or at the very least restful, but it's not therapy, not the same. So our time together today, I always like to spend a little bit of time arriving, giving you a practice to do together. Then we're going to talk about our topic. I have some resources to give you and share with you. And then I like to give a moment to reflect on how to take this with you, take the content with you. So as with everything that I ever do, this is all by invitation, meaning I'm going to invite you to practice any of the pieces that I share, which means you can also go, yeah, not for me, not feeling it, no thank you. So if at any point, if I'm leading you in a mindful activity and you're like, oh, this is activating for me, this is actually stressing me out, this isn't what I need right now, that is totally fine. It doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It means you actually are doing it right, paying attention to what you need, and then refiguring. So if at any point you need to get up, stretch, take a drink of water, just use this time to walk around the room for a minute, all of that is totally okay. With that being said, I would love to offer you an arrival. So this is something called progressive muscle relaxation. And for this, you can choose to be seated. You could stand if you want. You could even choose to lay down. So whatever is going to feel most comfortable for you and allow you an opportunity to really tune in. Progressive muscle relaxation is really all it is tensing up our muscles, holding it for a moment, and then letting it go, which promotes relaxation. It also helps us bring awareness to different parts of our body where we may be holding tension in and not even realizing it. It's in fact something we do all the time. And so this can be an opportunity to notice, are there places in your container where you are containing extra stress? So to invite you to find that posture that feels right for you, whether that be seated, standing, or laying down. Sometimes people find it helpful to close their eyes just as a way to tune in. So if that feels right to you, I invite you to close your eyes. If that feels a little weird, you can just lower your gaze. Maybe just bring a little awareness around the muscles around your eyes. And just try to loosen and ease those muscles a little bit. We're going to start with our toes. So I'd invite you to lift your toes up and hold. So as if you're trying to lift those toes up towards the sky. Hold that for just a moment. And then release. And now pushing your toes down as if you're trying to dig into the earth below you. Hold that for a moment and then release. Now bringing your awareness to your calf muscles and just tightening those calf muscles, bringing some tension there and holding, and then letting it go. You may notice that it's helpful to inhale as you're tensing and then hold for that moment as you're holding the tension. And then exhale as you're releasing. So then bringing that breath and awareness to your knees and pushing your knees together and inhaling, holding for a moment, and releasing and exhaling. Now bringing your awareness to your thighs and tensing up your thighs as you inhale. Holding for a moment, releasing as you exhale. Bringing your awareness to your bottom, tensing up as you inhale, maybe lifting yourself up off the seat a little bit, holding, and then exhaling, releasing. Bringing your attention to your hands, making fists, tensing up your hands as you inhale and hold. And exhale and release. Now bringing attention to your arms as you inhale and hold. Exhale and release. Bringing your attention to your abdominal area and inhaling and tensing up. And hold. And release and exhale. Bringing your attention to your chest. Tensing up if you can. As you hold and release and exhale. Bringing your awareness to your shoulders, up to your ears. Inhale as you hold and release as you exhale. Bringing your awareness to your lips, pursing your lips as you inhale through your nose. Exhale and release. Now bringing your awareness to your eyebrows, raising your eyebrows up. As you inhale and hold. Exhale and release. Now I'm just going to invite you to allow yourself to stretch, maybe move a little bit. Just start bringing your awareness and your attention back here when you're ready. Thank you for that. I would invite you now, as you bring your attention back here, if you're willing to share in the chat, anything you noticed. And if you want to throw a greeting in there too, feel free to do that. But anything you noticed during that progressive muscle relaxation. This can be a really helpful exercise to do at any point during the course of your workday. That took us about 10 minutes. You could just focus on one area or just a few areas. It's also a helpful thing to do before you're going to sleep. It can be helpful for insomnia. I'm seeing the chat. Yes, tight between the shoulder blades. I definitely noticed that. Didn't have to work very hard to raise your shoulders to your ears. Yeah, they were already there. Yeah, maybe just a little bit of stress. Excellent point there, right? And even as I'm touching my shoulders, I'm like, holy cow, yeah, need a massage. Yes, and it's difficult to not get distracted, right? And so that's a really important point that you're sharing there. And if you found yourself getting distracted during the course of that, that's really normal. That's a human brain at work and probably maybe an indication of some stress. And the noticing is doing it right. So mindfulness practice is called mindfulness practice because it's like any other skill. The more we practice it, the better we get at it. And we need to continue to practice it because of the way our brains are wired to get distracted. So the noticing is actually doing it right. And, you know, if you bring yourself back every single time or as many times as you can, that is the literal practice. So excellent work. Okay, to give a little context, some of you may be aware of when we talk about caring for ourselves as we care for others, that is really an integral part, a really important and vital part of our community care. So when we talk about mental health community care, we're talking about all of us, everyone, knowing how to take care of ourselves and each other effectively. In order for us to create stronger communities like we do at the Y, that's what we're here to do, and care for our communities, in order to do that, we need to care for ourselves so that we can effectively and sustainably do that. So I'm really thankful for you, and maybe give yourself a little pat on the back or a little squeeze for high five maybe, for making this time for yourself to take care of yourself in order to be able to also do community care. So we cannot separate the two. I also point out that we are in community together. Again, like I said, we cannot do self-care without community. They are really, really connected. So today's topic, burnout. Okay, I'm hoping everybody's super impressed by this GIF that I made. Canva, it's a rabbit hole I go down sometimes. So a few things that I want to think about before I share some resources with you. So when we think about burnout, a really important thing that I think gets lost, I was actually just chatting with Ellie before the call started about this. I've been burned out 3 times in my career. Now I'm ancient and wise, so I've had a very long career. So I feel like 3 times is a lot, but you know, in the course of 30 years as a professional, that's, you know, probably about once every 10 years. And what is, I think, so important to know is that it's not, for me, ever been about the work. It's always been about the systems. And so a way somebody framed this for me that I thought was really helpful was when we think about burnout, it's not about you as the individual not doing enough, not doing it well enough, any of those things. Those things may be contributing to your stress, but the burnout is caused by a mismatch between the demands that are placed on you and the resources and support that you have. Let me say it again. Burnout is caused by the mismatch between the demands that are placed on you in your role and the resources and support that is available to you. Now, we can also make things worse. Let's see what my next point here is. Yeah, important. You are not broken or weak if you experience burnout. It is a symptom of a system mismatch. And important, there are things we can do to make burnout worse. So another piece that can contribute to burnout that doesn't cause burnout, but that can make it worse potentially, is a mismatch between our own caring for ourselves in relation to caring for others. So some of you have maybe heard me say this before. I am suggesting not that you only care for yourself or that you only care for other people, but that you care for yourself at least as well as you care for other people, for a lot of reasons. But one of the reasons is if we are caring for everyone else before we care for ourselves, that can contribute as well to burnout by depleting us of our own internal resources. If we're not allowing for others to help support us, we are maybe setting ourselves up for getting crunchy, feeling crunchy. The good news is there are things we can do to recover from burnout. There's lots of things we can do. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. As we think about that, it's important to know that burnout shows up differently for all of us. So there's no like one way that it looks, and that's how it is for everyone, which means that figuring out what are the interventions that are going to work for you with your specific burnout, or for someone else and their specific burnout, that's gonna be helpful, right? That makes sense when we can narrow down what are the interventions that are going to be best for X, Y, or Z. That's just going to be more efficient, more useful. Which means you may have a general sense of like, I think I'm burned out. I'm not really sure what kind of burnout. I'm not sure what's contributing to it. Then one of the things that might come out of this conversation is you going, oh, that means it would be good to go to the Employee Assistance Program, the EAP, if your Y has that. Or it'd be good for me to talk this through with somebody that I really love and care about, or maybe go to my doctor and talk this through, or maybe go to a therapist and talk this through. So knowing that it shows up differently for each of us, and there's different things we can do that are going to be more effective depending on how it's showing up. So what are some signs of burnout? Well, here's some real common ones. Feeling real tired, feeling exhausted, feeling a sense of disconnection, or feeling like you're kind of out there alone, you're the only one doing the work, or you don't really have a team, even if you have a team, but feeling really kind of that disconnect. Not really feeling like doing the work. Maybe feeling numbed out. Oh, this is a big one, a sense you can never do enough, right? Like I can never meet all of the demands and the needs that we've got there. This is a really big one, sarcasm or cynicism. So I think sometimes people don't realize that sarcasm can be, yes, a coping mechanism, and also a sign that you might be feeling crusty and feeling burned out, experiencing some difficulty maybe with compassion or empathy. So that's something to take a look at. Other kinds of signs might be avoidance. So a classic one, seeing the phone number come up as the phone is ringing, going, nope, cannot take that call today, right? So, and sometimes it's okay, but if you're finding that you're avoiding things that are stressful, that's maybe something to take a look at. Any kind of addiction, so any kind of thing that we're doing in excess, whether it be using substances or gambling, sex, any of the kinds of behaviors that take us away from who and what's most important to us, something to look at. Feelings of helplessness or hopelessness, anger, resentment, minimizing, guilt, or shame. So this is it's a heavy list, right? So knowing that burnout shows up differently in all of us, you may not have all of these, or you may be thinking of someone you work with who is showing some of these. I'm curious if, in the chat, if you're relating to this, or if you feel like you've ever experienced any of these things or seen any of these things in others. Maybe you have others that you want to add to the list here. Knowing what we're looking at when we see these different kinds of things, and even going, well, I maybe have a couple of those. Maybe it's burnout. Maybe I should talk to someone and kind of figure this out. That's one of the very first steps, is going, I don't know if this is burnout or something else, but I got some of this stuff going on. I strongly encourage you to not just sit with this, because this stuff is really exhausting. So instead, I want to start moving towards some of our strategies. So my first question for you is to consider what brought you to this work. And this can be a helpful thing to remember. Why did you bother to show up for this job in the first place? What did you hope? What did you imagine? What were some of the positive impacts that you experienced when you first came to this work? And see if you can generate a little bit of that energy and kind of tap back into that. So that's one helpful reflection. Second part to that would be considering what keeps you coming back. So you've been here for however long you've been here. You've experienced whatever it is you've experienced. All jobs are stressful. Why do you bother to keep showing up even though this work is stressful? And just consider that for a moment. And for some of you, you might realize, I don't really know what's bringing me back anymore. And that is important information to maybe explore a little bit more deeply. For the others of you, you may be able to go, this is why I keep coming back. This is what makes it worth it, right? This is where it's aligned with my values and it's still something that is meaningful to me. In any case, the keeps you coming back question is probably an important one to reflect on periodically, maybe occasionally, maybe often. Finally, a really helpful way to reduce the risk of burnout is to allow yourself to dream and imagine and think about your plan B. So if you were not doing this work for whatever reason, what else would you love to do? What else would, as they say, fill your bucket? What else would give your life a sense of meaning and just feel good? It can be really, really healthy no matter where we are in our career, no matter how happy or unhappy we are with our work or everything in between, to just have that sense of, okay, what's a plan B if I needed it or wanted it? Other strategies for reducing the risk of burnout. Number one, we want a healthy workplace culture and supportive system, right? So in absence of that, we're all at risk of burnout. So in whatever way you can contribute to that healthy workplace culture, that's a way to help reduce the risk of burnout for others. So if you are somebody who supervises others, or if you're someone who has influence on a leadership team, all the efforts to make that a healthy workplace and make sure you have systems, policies, practices in place that really support your mental health and the mental health of your teams. In the moment throughout the day, kind of what we did with the mindfulness, with the progressive muscle relaxation, just tuning into your posture and breathing every once in a while. So I have a mindfulness chime that goes off on my computer that reminds me to take a nice deep breath in and out. It makes me go, oh yeah, where are my shoulders, right? Are they up around my ears or not? So just allowing yourself to notice just during the course of your day, as you're emailing or having a conversation with someone, are you frowning? Are you leaning? Like, what are you doing? Can you give yourself a little bit of ease and just relax into your chair a little bit more? That's what it's there for, to help support you. So helping us focus on what's meaningful in our work. So those 3 reflection questions that I just offered you is a way to maybe also reflect on what is the meaning in your work and how can that be, is it still in alignment with what you value? Growth mindset is being aware that part of being a human is making mistakes. And the cool thing about making mistakes is that's how we learn. That's how we learn and grow. So giving yourself grace and permission to be imperfect is extremely helpful. Boundaries, healthy boundaries. So it is okay to say no to things. Sometimes we forget that. I have discovered that it's easier for me to say, yes, I can do that in 2025 than just flat out say no. Sometimes things just work themselves out then. Having interests outside of work. So a lot of us really live our work, are why people, and having interests that are not the same as your work can be really helpful as well. Super important, accepting support and asking for help when you need it. And when you need it is probably most days we need help, whether it be, can you help me open this door because my hands are full of groceries because we're feeding kids? Or it might be something deeper like, hey, I saw this webinar and I'm kind of wondering if I might be a little burned out, and can you help me figure out what are my next steps, right? So asking for help when you need it. As we just mentioned in the previous slide, imagining your plan B, also really helpful. That's part of living in joy. So taking a look at this, strategies, if you are finding yourself burned out. So first of all, if you're finding yourself burned out, very important, taking things in small bites. It can get really overwhelming really fast. So really just trying to break things up into as small a shift as you can. So you're not suddenly going to be doing everything differently. You're going to be starting intentionally picking one or two small things at a time. Also important in managing burnout is to admit to yourself, allow yourself to experience what you're experiencing. Burnout is, in a way, just like every other emotion, really helpful information, because thinking about for myself, all 3 times that I was burned out in my career, it was because I discovered things changed and I had a mismatch between my values and the values of either my leader or the organization I worked for. And so that was painful, of course, but it was important for me to pay attention to, because I was like, oh, this is why I feel stressed. And this is why I feel burned out, because it's not lining up in the way that it used to for whatever reason. Things change, right? Things fall apart, come together again. Things fall apart, they come together again. We also want to think about reflecting on what you need. And that may be, going, I don't know what I need. Well, that means I need to talk to someone else. I need to ask for some help and seek support. I need to set some different boundaries potentially. I want to offer for you, and Ellie can throw this in the chat, the link to this, but a daily reflection worksheet that can be helpful. And that is helping you just focus briefly in the morning, what you want to focus on, how you're going to care for yourself, and really pulling it into like one thing that you're focusing on. And in the evening, kind of offboarding, debriefing what impacted you, how it impacted you, what you need, your supports, and a meaningful moment. I'm conscious of the time, so I'm going to start speaking quickly and get to the end of the slide deck, and Ellie will also share the slide deck in the chat for you, and a quick 3-minute survey so you can give any feedback on how this was. But these are a couple of books that I would highly recommend, quite helpful. The Burnout, Secret to Unlocking the Stress Cycle by the Nagoski twins is really aimed for focused more on women, but is pertinent to all genders. And Trauma Stewardship is pertinent to, I think, all humans, period. So highly recommend both of those books if you are somebody who is interested in self-study. Yes, Lauren, thank you. Great minds think alike. So biggest conclusion, if any piece of this resonated with you, if there's any part of you that's like, I wonder if I'm, I strongly cannot encourage you enough to ask for some help and to talk it through, because the longer you wait, the more you risk it getting worse. And for help any time of the day or night, we do have text lines 741-741 and the National Suicide Hotline, which has just changed over to the helpful phone number 988. So just dialing 988. You can find more resources on our mental health page. Again, these are some strategies here. Small, attainable shifts, most important. And asking for help when you need it. All of those other things might be the things that you do, a step at a time. If even coming up with small shifts is tough for you right now, again, I'm encouraging you to ask for help. I'm taking a deep breath in gratitude of you all being here for this call. A reminder that you caring for yourself is you caring for your community, because it is increasing your capacity to do so effectively. Oh, finally, a reminder to ask for help when you need it. I encourage you to take a little bit of time, maybe tonight or this afternoon, to consider what you're going to take away from today's conversation and what your next steps are and who you can lean on. More resources can be found on the mental health page on Link, and those are all in the chat here because Ellie's awesome. A reminder that there is a free app if you're wanting to work on some more of these things that came out of the La Crosse Area Family YMCA in Wisconsin. And I want to thank you. I'm going to stop sharing so I can see your faces. I'm going to offer you one more time a chance to take a nice deep breath in and out. Then I'm going to stay on the call for just a couple minutes before I hop on my next one in case anybody wants to say, hey. Here comes the deep breath. Thank you, everybody. We can stop recording now.